Over the course of 7 seasons, the town of Rosewood is plagued by a very serious ailment, an affliction that went unnoticed by me when I first watched the show, and that is the over-adornment of boots and belts. It's this very same phenomenon that is the subject of this research project. Here I will unpack the data. This is Pretty Little Liars, Boots and Belts, an Epidemic. Sometime last year I sat down to rewatch Pretty Little Liars, and as I did so I noticed the cast often wore boots and belts, and I joked with my sister, we should keep track of how many they wear, and that escalated to opening a spreadsheet and inputting data. So shout out to my sister for her help and for the name of this video. A few disclaimers. First, we must clarify what I think are boots and belts. So here are boots, and here are things that are not boots. Here are belts, and here are things that are not belts, in my opinion. I only counted certain members of the cast, so the liars themselves, their mothers, Melissa, Mona, Jenna, Paige, Maya, Cece, Alex Drake, Shauna, and Mary Drake. I wanted to focus on characters that were either the main cast, had a lot of screen time, or informed the plot. So people like Meredith, Jackie, Maggie, I've left them out. Apologies if you disagree, but I just felt it was the right choice. I also left out the men because they are irrelevant. Final disclaimer, there are a plethora of boots and belts worn by the extras in the background. I didn't count them because I simply did not have the strength. But I am curious, but not curious enough to actually count them. So let's get into the data. Season 1. In Season 1, Aria wears the most boots out of all the liars with a whopping 30. This makes sense because of her propensity for boots and belts is a genetic disposition by virtue of being Ella's daughter. Although Ella doesn't wear as many boots and belts as Aria, she does wear the most out of all the mothers on the show. Meanwhile, Hannah's mother, Ashley, wears the most belts. It reflects her financial state. She's strapped for cash as a single mother. This season we see Spencer's mother wearing no belts. She's financially unencumbered as a lawyer. Unlike her mother, however, Spencer wears a lot of belts. I attribute this to her mounting pressure from school, her high-pressure family, and her efforts to figure out who A is because all of her friends are deadweights who contribute nothing. That's mean. They do contribute a bit, but my goodness. Emily starts out in a cute, sporty look in Season 1. This is made up of cargo miniskirts and trainers, but we see her change more into combat boots and singlets. It would seem when Emily came out of the closet, she left all of her good clothes behind her. Emily's attire, we will see, is very similar to Paige and Shauna's. The combination of combat boots, jeans, belts and singlets, we will see, is something of a lesbian uniform on the show, and an unfortunate one at that. Meanwhile, Hannah is wearing the ugliest boots I've ever seen. She looks a bit like Happy Feet, heavens to Betsy. The remaining data from the other members of the cast are quite minimal, but it's important to note that not all of them are in every episode. Interestingly, Alison's boot count matches Emily's. I consider Alison to have such a high boot count because if you've watched the show, you will know she truly is alive and kicking. She is wampa stomping in the shadows, doing whatever she wants. And later, wearing very same boots, she will waltz back into town. Season 2. This season we see the liars coming for Aria's bootsy crown. It seems they are tired of her stomping around as the supreme overlord. She does, however, retain her crown because she does often wear boots in combination with belts, bringing up the average number of boots worn overall. We see the liars wear more boots this season because they need to be more comfortable, as they're running around in circles and jumping to conclusions. Aria's mother cosplays as Patrick Star in these knee-high bad boys. These boots are so wicked I considered she might be A herself. In episode 21 we see Paige return for the first time in a while, and it seems that in her absence she has since come out. Here we'll notice that her outfits have changed also, and she is in fact adorning the lesbian attire that I mentioned previously. And then we have Jenna, who is pepper stepping through the hallways in a good number of boots also. She's bold and she's brave because she has her sight back and nobody knows. It's important to note that the liars spend a greater portion of time in the same outfits this season. People worked out that seasons 3 to 5 are in fact just 3 months of time, and I think a lot of this season takes place in November of 2011, but do correct me if I'm wrong. This season we see Cece Drake stepping into town, and she does so quietly in very few pairs of boots. She's got secrets to hide. She doesn't want people to know that she's making moves. Aria and her mother are pirates. They wear the most boots out of their contemporaries, and Aria has reclaimed her position as Boots Supreme. Emily is also riding that bootsy high. She exclusively wears boots now because she is basically a cowboy. Now, Paige doesn't wear very many belts this season, but I think she ought to wear far more because she needs to get a grip. I can't remember why I wrote that in my notes, but it's so true of her character, just full stop. This is a note about all of the liars, nothing to do with the data. They wear their nasty shoes on people's beds and chairs, and I don't know what it is, but something has them feeling very bold as brass as their belt buckles, and it needs to stop. Back to the data. Spencer falls apart this season because she finds out that Toby is in the A-team, and thus she starts wearing fewer belts. It signifies her loss of control and emotional undoing. Later we see Spencer spiral so badly she stops wearing shoes full stop, never mind boots, and that is because she's in Radley. Spencer and Mona, post their stints in Radley, start wearing belts again. It visually signifies that they have their lives together. Shauna arrives in that lesbian ensemble that I mentioned, boots and singlets. Again, not really relevant to the data, but there is an episode where Aria is wearing a cheetah print jacket and striped heels. It gives very Cat Slater, and if you know what that means, you know what that means. Maya wears no boots or belts this season because she's a ghost. Boo. Season 4. In Season 4, Mona wears the first pair of boots we see this season. She's stepping up to help the liars instead of pushing her foot down on the accelerator to run them over. Hannah's belts seem to cut off circulation to her brain, which impedes her ability to make rational decisions. Her belts also seem to throw her back out of joint, which is why she's constantly craning her neck and snapping at people. Aria's crown is slipping, and she's barely holding on to the title of Miss Boots. But again, with her boot and belt combinations, she's able to stay winner overall. Once Aria discovers that Ezra is a dirty, nasty liar, and he is in fact bored shorts and he had a relationship with Alison, her friend, when she was underage at like 14 or 15. Anyway, if you've seen the show, you've seen the show. Once she discovers this, her boot wearing upticks, and she returns to her first love. This season introduces Spencer's mum wearing belts. Spencer relapses and starts taking pills, and so her mother has to wear a belt to hold herself together. The emotional strain is great. Funnily enough, Alison's boot count is quite low for all that crawling out of the grave she did and moving around in the shadows. Season 5. Belts are out and boots are in this season. Alison and Hannah are in their reinvention eras. Hannah has gone the way of grungy Tumblr girl because she's an alcoholic now. And Spencer confirms what I already knew, which is the liars are war criminals. In episode 4, Spencer wears a jumper with lions and giraffes and a lace-up cheetah print shoe. Oh my. Spencer's mother is still being held together by the grace and mercy of her belts. This time the stress is coming from her husband and her second daughter, or her first daughter, Melissa. She believes that they might have killed Alison's mother. Aria's mum returns this season from Vienna with a very different style of boots. Now she's into dusty ankle boots that fit under her jeans instead of the Patrick style moment she used to adore. But when she breaks up with her younger boyfriend Zach, Ella returns to the old faithfuls. At the start of this season we see Alison leading the Boots Brigade. This is symbolic of her leading her friendship group once again. But Hannah is stiff competition, and it seems to be a battle of the blondes v blondes. Ultimately, Hannah wins once Alison goes to prison, and she has the most boots out of the two of them. A small disclaimer, this is not about Lucy Hale the actress, it is about Aria Montgomery the character. In my notes, for whatever reason, I've written, Aria's head is as thick as cement. Not relevant to the data whatsoever, but I think I was angry at her stubbornness and her inability to listen. I was also deeply vexed with Hannah as well, it would seem, because I've written, Hannah is an idiot. She just has loose rocks jangling around in her empty head, which she confuses for thoughts. Again, not about Ashley Benson the actress, Hannah Marin the character. Season 6. There are very few boots and belts worn this season. We start off with the liars in orange jumpsuits. They're about to be carted off to prison for suspected murder, but A intercepts and takes them to the dollhouse. Now in the dollhouse we see Mona wearing a pair of boots. She's dressed as Alison. I didn't see this at the end of season 5, but I'm noting it here. The first belts that the liars all wear is at the hospital. They are unified in their trauma from their time in the dollhouse. We get very low data from Cece, Shauna, Paige, Jenna and Melissa, and this is either because they are ghosts, boo, or they have been absent, or they have been present but just haven't been wearing boots. Cece, for example, doesn't come stomping in wearing boots until episode 9. In episode 18 and 19, there are no boots or belts worn at all. This is a real contrast to previous seasons, and it reflects the stark terror that the lives have been through. Season 7. Alex and Spencer are the first to visibly wear boots and belts this season. They mirror one another because they are twins. Now, some of Spencer's data is probably modelled with Alex's. Alex did impersonate her for a time, so I don't quite always know who was who. Mona also wears boots in episode 1, but we don't see that until the end of the episode. She's been creeping in the shadows and she doesn't want us to know that. And she fears that her footwear will expose her. Mary Drake and Spencer are both wearing long belted jackets this season. Again, they mirror one another as mother and daughter. We do see a surge of belts on crop jackets. They're cheeky and fun, and it's a nice new take on a familiar part of their wardrobes. Now, Hannah does retain a great number of boots this season because she does enjoy harumphing around just acting a fool. Emily and Allison wear the fewest number of boots this season. They're settling down, they're parents, they've got to adapt to this new part of their lives. Now, let's take a look at who the big kahunas were across the series. Of the 680 boots from the counted cast, Aria makes up 135, and Emily is actually right there beside her with 135 also. Hannah isn't far behind with 122, Spencer has 92, and Allison has 51. Now, Allison coming in last makes sense. She decided to have this redemption arc, and she was done being the sour, bitter cow that she was. She hung up her old boots and stopped trying to step on people's necks, and that to me is a real crying shame. Of the 387 belts from the counted cast, Hannah wore the majority with 87. Aria is a close second with 64. Spencer is third with 52. Allison has 24, and Emily has 13. An honourable mention goes to Mona, who had 39. Now this makes sense. The most number of belts are worn by the most unstable of them. Out of the 210 boots and belts that were worn in combination, Aria wins. She has 69. Spencer follows with 52, Hannah has 40, and Allison and Emily, funnily enough, have 4 each. It seems to be destiny, they were always meant to be together. Look at the numbers. When we look at the data across the entire show, we see a downward trajectory, and that is because of the difference in style and trends across the years. It seems that the wardrobe department learned that a boot and belt does not an outfit make. That is not me giving anyone hate, I just personally didn't love the outfits, but that's just a singular opinion. And there you have it, the boots and belt epidemic that had Rosewood in a chokehold. Considering I counted a select few members of the cast and no extras, I can only imagine what the data would have been. Had I done that, it would have been astronomical. If you would like to take a closer look at the data for whatever reason, it is available on my Patreon as a data pack. I hope you found this information helpful, and thank you for watching. Feel free to like the video if you would like, and subscribe if you want to subscribe. I will see you next time. Bye!